Rangers ADOK says, I defo give Balogun another year. Can I get rid of everyone this summer? We need some experience with a high turnover of players likely. I'd also get Butland back in. Mark says, give Leon a 1 year, cheap wage, use him as a sub to play in the changing room. He's a winner. That's why Michael Beale took him to Queen's Park. He's a good character. Singing the Blues insists he's the best centre-back in Scotland. Davey says, it says everything about Rangers when their best defender is 37. And Maestro simply says, bring back Davey Weir. So, it's kind of up in the air, Keith, but he's still very popular, regardless of his age.
Everything's up in the air, and that is the problem that Rangers have got, and it's why Barry Ferguson has now repeated, what he said in terms of decisions need to get made, action needs to be taken. And I strongly believe that we'll have a much clearer picture for what the future's about to look like for Rangers by the end of this week, because people are going on holidays. The league finishes at the weekend. Obviously, it's not crept up by surprise. Rangers are well aware of the situation that they're in, and that it's far, far, far from ideal. So I think the sort of decisions around the manager and around players, I think all this has to come to the surface over the course of the next few days. And I think by the end of this week, I think we'll have a much clearer picture of the sort of direction of travel. As for Balogun, no matter who's coming in, he's a guy that you want to keep. He's an absolute warrior. He's absolutely the type of character that Rangers require. Just even the fact that he was on an operating table and then 8 days later he's wearing a face mask and playing in an Old Firm game. It tells you everything about the guy. Now, is he a guy that you could rely on to play 50 games in a season? Of course he isn't. But he's certainly a guy that I would want to keep around if I was in charge of Rangers next season. You look at the likes of Robin Propper, for example. Balogun's by far and away a better central defender. More robust and strong, and more ideally suited to the Scottish game. I think if a new manager was in place, that would be one of the first things you would do. You'd look to get Balogun sorted out on a new deal. And I think as well that Balogun has really flourished. I think he enjoys the current setup with Barry Ferguson and his staff. Because Balogun is one of these guys that is really bought into Rangers, lock, stock and barrel. And we've been talking about the culture at Celtic. It doesn't really exist so much at Rangers, but Balogun is one of these guys that really does get it. And I think he's thoroughly enjoyed working with Barry Ferguson and the coaching staff. So I'd put it this way, if Barry Ferguson was to get the job, then I'd be surprised if he let Liam Balogun go anywhere, because he is a guy that I think would be really a real good voice to have. Even if he can't play every game, he'd be one of these characters that you would want around your trading ground and around your squad.
Scott, David says Balogun is unquestionably our best defender, and by some distance, the fact he's pushing 40 is a shocking indictment on the recent recruitment within the club. I mean, I would probably go along with David in the sense that I do think he probably is Rangers' best defender still.
I think it's fair comment, Daniel. I agree with everything that Jacko's just said there. I mean, I think he's actually... people, maybe up until a few months ago, would obviously say John Souttar was the best defender at Rangers, but I think John Souttar's had a few poor games recently as well. Hasn't kind of covered himself in glory, whereas Balogun... Look, I think with Rangers, if there's one defender, if you need a defender you can rely on for a big game in Europe or against Celtic or a final or whatever, I think Balogun's the guy you invariably turn to, and managers have invariably turned to him. At 37, he said himself, still in really good nick. I thought he was arguably the man of the match in the recent Old Firm game at Ibrox when he came back. I think it's a no-brainer to give him another year for all the reasons that Keith talked about, but probably the most important one that he touched on was it's his character and his personality and his leadership qualities. Jacko's talking about culture there at a club. I've spoken to people at Finn Auchenhowie. Balogun's a guy, the type of guy that will get into the laundry and get into the kitchen and speak to the staff. He cares about people. He cares about how they're getting on. He wants them to be happy. He loves it at Rangers. He's taken on more of a leadership role. I think he's a lot more vocal since he came back to the club. So, as I say, when you look at the defenders they've got, and you look at the rebuild that's going to happen over the summer, you want as many of the guys, the kind of cast iron guys you can rely on, and I think Balogun's definitely one of them. So again, I'd be amazed if he didn't get another year